So, good morning, everyone. Before I answer the question, I just want to say that row there, where the guy with the big hat is, Crosby. There's 3 sets of people there, so if you want to know about our programs and what's going on, just see them after the meeting. Right. Look, with anything that's about, in particular, when it's a small man, when it's ordinary people, it takes a lot of effort. If you want to beat giants who have lots of money and lots of resources, you can't plan a short-term progress report. You got to work on the long term. And that's what happened. We are celebrating 29 years. And we did not think that the refineries that were there for over 68 years will still continue. But I think all the work we've ever done around the refineries, it's always about getting the knowledge, empowering the communities, making them understand that what are the impacts, and you saw Professor Rajan on the video talking to it. I think once the scales have been removed off your eyes, then the fight begins. And you got to be rigid on your fighting and be straight, because once you take their money and work with them, that you are co-opted, you're never going to find a solution to the problem that is needed right now. The oil cartel have been responsible and worked with the apartheid regime against black people in this country and in other parts of the continent. Second thing, the many deaths of our people has been directly linked to the chemical industry. There's no doubt about that. Many of us, the way we fight is because of our experiences with our family, where our families have died of cancer and leukemia, asthma in some cases. Some of our children still carry the scars of chronic asthma. The very important thing when you're dealing with giants is not to concentrate on them and what they can do. And don't let them scare you. And that seems to be the modus operandi of the big corporations. They either send you legal letters from their lawyers to shut you up, and we know many activists in this country have got slap suits, or in the case where I've been involved, engines, 7 interdicts, SAPREF, same thing. And just recently, a company down the road, where I look out my window and the pollution is so high that I breathe it, sent me that. So I think the important thing is this, is to keep focused and not be scared of that. They're going to come after you. They're going to pay people. Many of the comrades that I work with throughout South Africa, throughout the province here, whether it's Matuba, Ngoma, Ulundi, Richards Bay, where comrades have been killed, people like Mafugile, because they were opposing mining and taking away the land. Same thing on the South Coast, Bazooka, after 12 o'clock, shot him dead. So we've seen the deaths and all that there. But I want to get closer to a subject that the video spoke about, the gangs and the violence. The health study was clear that there was chronic asthma. Over 53% of the people died of it. The second one was that the cancer rate was 25 in 100,000, and that's conservative, probably more than that. And then the third one was the mental effect on people, the young people in particular in the area. Today we've got so many killings, mental stress, young people are dying or getting killed. And I certainly believe research should be done around that, of how the contribution has been done by the chemical industry. Because we talk about venture, talk about gang, talk about violence, talk about killing. But who has been involved in all that? We know that during the apartheid government, the chemicals that were used to kill many people in this country, how do we not know if these companies, the chemicals that they were using, they use some of the most nastiest chemicals you can ever come across. And I suspect that those chemicals had a role to play in the mentality of our people, the stress level that you see, and how the violence has erupted in Wentworth, where I come from, where I still live, where 4 people were shot on Saturday afternoon. And that's a weekly thing of people getting killed. So the refinery has done nothing. They've made huge amounts of profits, all those refineries, and they've shifted those profits. Unfortunately, the democratic government, when you talk about them, they are complacent and complicit in the money leaving this country to the London Stock Exchange, the New York Stock Exchange, the Melbourne Stock Exchange, and all these rich people where the money goes to the shareholders are all over the world, in those places. There's nothing that just benefits our people in the area. Go to the townships around us, look in the areas, and you'll see the way we live. And I think that film depicts exactly all the profits. And you talk about companies that are making 60 and 100 million rand profit a day. We were breathing the most horrified chemicals at its very highest level. You talk about those chemicals. I'm a sniffer and a chemical. I'm a scientist now. I can sniff any chemical, I can interpret the chemical, and I can tell you what impact it has on people's health. So you're talking about chemicals that were emitted. 80%, 100% of sulfur dioxide. That alone causes your asthma. Then it's the benzene level that's the highest. Benzene comes from the manufacture of petrol, jet fuel, and all that. That causes all your leukemia and cancer. And we've got high levels of that, right? The point is this year, what did the government do? It took us as people to rise up. In anything, it's people that will change things. Even the best lawyer will tell you that. So it's all about people uniting and coming together to build a new economy that will create jobs, that will not create harm to your health and well-being. We started it in 1995. We met Mandela in the street. He got a shock that people were meeting in the street as the president of this country. But we shook up those gates. And ever since, we've been shaking up the petrochemical industry and written about them that has never been seen. In fact, I travel all over Africa, educating, sharing the knowledge with people to fight these big corporations. Because we know, firstly, we are in a crisis in the world. The climate crisis is caused by no other than the chemical and petrochemical industry. They can deny it, they can come with the best presentation, they can provide the best food, but they've got blood on their hands, they've been murdering and killing our people all over the world, and in South Africa as well. We saw that with the gas truck that went under the bridge. Gas in the truck that killed so many people. And it's happened. There's a gas pipeline in Joburg that blew up. They want to bring all those gas pipelines all the way from Secunda, Mpumalanga, all the way down to the northern KZN. Now, some of you might stay in the rural areas, I don't know. So the people that are coming down, they want to bring all this. It's going to affect people in the rural areas. They're going to put the same pipelines that you saw in Joburg blowing up. They're going to put the same industry in Richards Bay. So I'm there in Richards Bay, fighting them off. And tomorrow I go there to fight off the mining in Melmoth, in Eshowe. Because I believe that you can't allow them to start, because once they start, they destroy the land, they destroy the water, they destroy you. Our opportunity is now, our eyes are open, the film tells you that. Let's not give them an inch to come and take over our properties, our land. We need to develop the land for the benefit of each and every one of us and for the future. If we allow the land to be destroyed now, even your food crops will be destroyed. We'll be suffering, as you heard about water. We'll be suffering over water, we'll be fighting over food, because these guys, once they destroy the land with any chemical, whether it's GMOs, or whether it's pesticides, or whether it's all the chemicals that are coming from South Durban, my view would be that they will destroy what is good for us, what is good for humanity. We've got to put humanity first, because we won't eat money and we won't eat the poison. Thank you.
Very loud and clear says, what you're saying is we cannot rely on change coming from the top without an awful lot of pressure from below. But at the same time, we know that we don't have movements that are as strong as they need to be. So that, you can't be doing stuff on your own or in small groups. We need a lot more people because everyone's getting affected. I wanted to talk about food security but the filmmaker's not here, so if there's time, we'll go there. But I just want to say, I want to talk to you now about how can film assist in that process of movement building. And what you've done here, and I want you to talk about some of the decisions that you made, is that you've made what we call a brilliant example of an intersectional climate story. And what I mean is, it doesn't just tell you about the environmental impacts of an oil refinery. It tells you about real people's lives. It tells you about gender rights. It tells you about health rights. It allows you to have a bit of an emotional experience because people, working class communities, are going to watch this and they're going to see themselves in this story and they're going to relate. Can you just talk about that?
I think firstly I want to say, Des for Prez. There was that poster in the SATSI office that we included in the film, and this is exactly the type of leadership that we need in the country. There's this mobilizing people all over the province, and I'm so happy to see the organization that he runs grow. I looked on the website the other day and there are like 5 more people, so that's awesome. Yeah, in terms of how we can use film to promote, I think that one thing that I'm struggling with on this particular film is support from the film fraternity, if you can call it that. We're struggling to get into film festivals. We followed the process to try and actually get into the Durban International Film Festival, and our film was rejected, and it was only because of the Africa Film Festival that we're screening today. And I think it's because people are fearful of being implicated in funding loss, because big oil funds a lot of what is invested into the arts. It has its hand in every sort of faction of society. Big oil, big industry runs society, and it's really tricky. At an event like this, if you look around the room, it's SATSI, people from SATSI, people from Greenpeace, the organization that I'm with. And so we're screening to basically people that are already aware of the issues. I'd like to see a film like this being shown at Suncoast, where the official selections are shown, and not just the films that they think will be profitable, because they have a perception that people don't want to watch movies that are about the environment, that people don't want to watch movies that are about grassroots movements, when this is the type of information that people actually need. And with all the disinformation that is out there, like, people are looking for answers, and they're looking for answers from organizations that are involved in it. So I think that's also a perception that people have about profitability that's incorrect. I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, you did. You just made me think about when we released Miners Shot Down some years ago. I was the producer and the impact producer. SABC wouldn't show it for political reasons. They didn't say it was political, but we knew it was. They wouldn't show one of the most important films about the worst event that happened in post-democracy South Africa. But that, in a way, backfired on the people that didn't want to see. Because we did a massive campaign of taking it into mining communities and every single working class community that we could. We formed great partnerships with organisations that wanted to help us. And I think maybe that's what we need to do with this film. We need to get it, the way to build a movement from below is to take it into the communities with a call to action. So the call to action could be, let's form a hub, let's form an environmental hub. And I'm sure Des has thought of this already. I've got other ideas.
Well, I want to offer that, because we have youth coming up, with a lot of days of youth. It's around the oil and gas industries, around Marine Week, and I think that can be very helpful. We will provide all the venues, bring the people there, we work together on this, and my guys here will be able to do it. So this film should be shown in our community, and we can help you with that. And I agree totally.
Yeah.
The same thing happened with the miners. They didn't want to show it because it really exposed South Africa. It exposed our president. that ordinary people can be killed off, just like that because of their own greed. I think likewise here, we come to a stage where film is very critical. And I think young people will attract to this. So if you want to, we are ready to go with you.
Before you come in, I just want to say not just community screenings, but have screenings in workplaces as well.
Yeah.
Health workers.
Yeah.
Team up with TAG. Get in it. Let's talk afterwards, but there's an awful lot that can be done. You know, if you're turned down by commercial models,
I agree that that community screenings are a very essential part to play. But I mean, I feel that when you have massive distributors, like you want to get this type of information out to as many people as possible. You want it to be on the SABCs because there's a reach of 2 million people, because it is essentially public service announcement in itself, right? Because you're making people aware of what could be affecting their health. You're making them aware of what they need to look out for in a health situation. I think one of the studies that I looked at when making this was one that showed that people from low socioeconomic backgrounds are not likely to get healthcare because it's a negotiation between feeding their families and actually getting health. So in a community like Wentworth, where people are prone to illness and people are making the decision whether or not that loaf of bread is important for the day or going to the clinic, where you will get substandard sort of healthcare in any case, the Bernardo that Des speaks of. I just, like, where else are people going to get this information from? Now, what I want to say is that a lot of the feedback that we get about why the film is not something that people want to screen is because they feel that it's too negative. It's the reality that people live with. But they feel like it's too negative, it's not a good story. But it's an important story because there are activists who are in the community. There's this organization that for almost 30 years now have been fighting and have massive, massive victories, and we need to celebrate that. I think there's also just a fear that if you show success stories of community activists, that it might spark, you know, that kind of resistance that people in power are afraid of.